session's really simple. We're going to talk about data. How many people love data? All right. Me too. Problem is, a lot of times, what do we do with that data? We have all this data. What do we do with it? As Micah mentioned, my name is Robert Tabary. I've been in this industry for over 10 years now, working with HR leaders all over the nation, listening to what they're trying to accomplish in their organization, and trying to find software technologies that can help them do those things. We came a long way from paper forms, even before emails, memos. Anybody remember memos? All right, yeah, I was in the military. We still do memos. So there's a lot that has transformed since. And what I've seen personally is that there's a shift into singular databases. So a lot of times folks are scattered into multiple softwares, multiple systems, and it's hard to gain insights from all of those different data points if you have it spaced out like that. And so that's basically what I've seen from the last 10 years in the industry is people are moving from spreadsheets and maybe a payroll software and then a timekeeping software and then an HRIS into one singular platform when they can. And if they can't, they're integrating. Super important. You mentioned your software. I used to sell your software under the other name that it was before y'all renamed it. Great software, love that software. And it's important because that tool helps. It was literally created, here's the story, I'll give you the story, I don't know if you the story, but the story behind this software called GoCo, called Gather Through Colonial, they had an HR administrator who sat at a desk all day long with piles of paper. And these programmers, these software tech guys, these geniuses out of Texas were like, we're going to create a software for you to make your job easier. And that's what they did. It was for their HR department, not to sell. And it was such a hit, they started selling it, and they actually just sold the company to Quick Intuit. Yeah. So really cool story with them. But that's the whole point is they saw a need in the marketplace and they created something that folks can use. So I'll start off with another quick story. I just would kind of digress to the story. But first off, let's talk about an HR director who thought their turnover at a company was 12%, right? They're like, yeah, 12% turnover, we're good. We ran that information through predictive people analytics. We actually found out it was 20%, but not only was it 20%, it was hyper-targeted in a specific division. So what the C-level executives were able to do with that information, the insights that the HR leaders brought to the table, was redirect resources to that division and then lower that turnover effectively down to 8%. The reason they didn't know they were so high is because their data was spread out all over the place. And they really just needed to find a way to incorporate AI into their workflow. And, actually Mike asked me a question before. He's like, what AI do you use, Robert? I'm like, well, depends on what the use case is. I use chatbots for certain things. I used AI to create this presentation. So just to be clear, if you don't like the presentation, blame AI, not me. I just do what it tells me to do. All right. And so the data that we're trying to get into one single place and away from spreadsheets is to get more actual insights in front of leadership. So let's talk about turning the slide to the next one. There we go. All right. So here's the reality for HR, right? HR teams are drowning in the data and they're starving for insights. Data overload, report fatigue, the demand for foresight. A CHRO once told me they have 200 reports they have access to, but they still couldn't find out who's likely to leave in the next 90 days. So that's where AI really comes in and solves those problems and gives you those actionable insights. So why now? Well, because it's available now. Why would you not use a tool that's available to you if it can help you gain these valuable insights and get these in front of the folks that need to hear them so they can make changes? There's a talent shortage. Does anybody know there's a talent shortage? Anybody having trouble filling roles? Okay. Retention is another challenge. So if you can't find people to fill the roles and you're losing people in those roles, what do you do? And employee expectations, they're evolving as well. So the faster that HR can keep up, the better your organization will thrive. At iSolve specifically, we focus on business outcomes. I'm sorry about that. I thought my Teams was off. Apologize about that. And so at iSolve, we focus on bringing folks in front of the data and making sure that they can use the data effectively, and they create that accessibility to AI in that software. And I'm not here to pitch you iSolve, I just want to use examples. This is what I do all the time, so it makes sense just for me to use it as an example. But predictive insights are possible today, which is the point, and they're not a distant future problem, right? They're available to you today. And I'll talk about another company who was spending 6 figures on an exit interview, right? That's where they focused their energy, but they still couldn't stop the turnover. So they tried predictive people analytics, and once they started acting on the data, that retention was almost improved immediately, and that's why it matters today. So here's our roadmap. We've kind of dived into a couple stories, but we're going to cover AI-powered predictive HR insights, what that is, what does it mean. We're going to talk about strategic workforce planning and retention. We're going to talk about those data-driven engagement opportunities. And then we're going to talk about ethical complications and consideration. And then how do you implement this? There's a lot to bite off. How do you get it down to a manageable size? So when people analytics at its core, right, it just means moving from raw data to strategic insights. So step one, collect the data. Again, we talked about this having in multiple silos. Then the next part is super important. You have to analyze it. You can do this yourself. You probably are doing this today yourself, okay? Putting in some sort of prediction model is something that will make your life much easier. And then lastly, acting. This is the part that I think gets missed a lot. We have all this data, we have these insights, but then how do we present it to the right folks so that we can actually do something about it? So that's where the third part, you have to act on that data. So think about driving here. You have what we would call descriptive analytics, which is the rear view mirror. You can look in the back and see what happened. AI gives you predictive analytics, and that's like your GPS telling you there's traffic ahead, and here's a better way to get to where you're trying to go. Okay, so that's really how I want to frame the conversation today. Let's talk about a quick case study here. So predicting attrition. So there's a technology company that was facing 25% voluntary turnover, millions in replacement costs, millions. They built a 90-day attrition forecast model. It flagged predictors and pay groups, promotion delays, and manager challenges. And what did they do? They acted. They targeted stay interviews, they personalized development plans, and the result was a 15% reduction in turnover within 6 months, which equated to $3.2 million in cost savings. When you think about what every seat at your organization costs you, it adds up quick when those seats are left open, or the burnout from the folks that are filling those gaps, the real cost of turnover there. So from this case study, 68% of the managers said that they felt more confident handling retention once they were able to actually get the data into an organized manner and really present it to those folks that needed to hear it. Another case study here, engagement insights. So financial services firm, they had solid pay, frequent surveys, but they still face engagement issues. AI analysis revealed disengagement spiked after employees' second anniversary. The cause wasn't pay, and it was unclear what that cause was until they started diving in with analytics, and they found it was career pathing. So they launched mentoring, career coaching, career pathing, and within a year, that engagement score rose 10%, and attrition in 2 years dropped down to 24%. So the bigger lesson here is that one company assumed that compensation was their top reason for folks leaving, and analytics proved that career development mattered more. And once they invested in development, that's when they saw real engagement rise. Okay, so let's talk about the bad side of AI, right? When you are using AI, there's things that happen in AI today that we call bias, right? Data in, data out type things. So when you look at analytics as a powerful tool, yes, but also the powerful or the large risks that come along with it. Biased data leads to biased results. Privacy concerns creates employee pushback. And then correlation gets confused with causation. Real example here, so an algorithm flagged that single parents were a higher flight risk. If you were to think about that, it's a bias. And it's not something that you would probably think right off the top of the bat. But the real driver was inconsistent scheduling. So without human oversight, HR might have acted in the wrong way with that insight. So that's where we have to be very careful with how we're using the data. You're not going anywhere. This is why, right? It can't do everything. This allows, let's let the robots do the robot stuff, and let's let the humans do the human stuff. It gives you more opportunity to have engagements in person or virtually with your employees rather than parsing through data and trying to figure these things out. So that's why we need responsible people analytics, and that's where testing comes in place. So how do we use it responsibly? We're going to focus on 4 pillars. So the first pillar being fairness. Test your data on outputs on bias. The second pillar is transparency. So explain what data is collected and why. Why is it collected? And then privacy. This is the biggest concern, I think, when it comes to AI. So making sure you have the right systems in place to protect that sensitive employee information. And then lastly, governance. Set clear policies. Work with your teams, develop policies, go and outsource those if you need to, if you don't have time to. But putting policies in place today will save you headaches over the next 30 days, 60, 90 days. And we'll talk about how you can start taking steps today. So it's not just about compliance, it's about building trust so your employees accept the analytics rather than fear it. Okay, so here's how we build momentum with analytics. First and foremost, start small. So back to your point, Micah, what do you use? ChatGPT, I do it for recipe. I take a picture of stuff in my pantry, tell me what to make, right? Anybody? No? Cool. So try that out sometime. But what I would say in this room, and we'll kind of pick something out here soon, is think of one thing, one business problem you want to solve to, and then just work on that. Deliver a quick win. Show value to your executives. This is why this works. And then upskill yourselves and other folks in your departments so that they understand how to use AI, and then scale that. You're not going to get it all in one day. You know, we have at iSolved a people analytics tool, but maybe that's not where you need to be yet. Maybe it's getting all your data into one place. Maybe that's step 1 for you. So just making sure you're breaking off small pieces, quick wins, and then scaling from there. That's how you get AI and predictive people analytics in place at your organization. So we'll talk about one team here that started, they predicted absenteeism. When that worked, the leadership quickly adopted the rest. So that's what they picked. They showed the proof in the pudding, right? And then across the organization, they scaled analytics throughout all their data silos. So another example is a company believed promotions were fair, but analytics revealed some groups were consistently promoted very slow, even with equal performance. They introduced structured promotion criteria, and the equity gap began to close. And that's one way they built credibility and opened the doors to scaling analytics throughout their organization. So when we think about tools, what are the tools? Again, ChatGPT is the tool that I use for certain things. I don't use it for HR. BI dashboards, that's one option. So Power BI, Tableau, Looker for reporting and storytelling. Predictive models, software as a service, in-house, spreadsheets, I know. Turnover, skills gaps, and forecasting, that's a good spot for that. HR integrations, pulling all of your payroll data out of that silo, your benefits data, your performance data, all those things into one unified employee profile so that you know you now have a full snapshot of that employee. So things to keep in mind when you're evaluating these things, these tools, is balance your usability with integrations, with costs, and implementation requirements. Change is hard, so how much can you bite off at one time? Know that, and then balance that with all those other things when you consider how to use these tools in the future. We're gonna pause here for a second. We're gonna get you a little bit of engagement here. So everybody pull your phone out here. What this is a word cloud. So I want you to take the #1 HR challenge, the #1 challenge you want AI analytics to solve. And there's gonna be 3 options when you get in there. You could put 3 in there. You could choose 1, you could choose 2, it doesn't matter. And then we'll go and look at the results. I'll give you a minute or 2 to get those in there. So get your responses in, and then we'll see what comes up and see what the biggest challenge is. Maybe there's some alignment here, all right? So far, engagement popping up, retention. I'm gonna have to zoom in on my eyes here, sorry guys. Succession planning, learning and development. Leadership readiness, career pathing, love that. Pay, Lots of good things here. Let's see if it'll blow up some here for us and see if we can get all these results. Number one, though, as we know, most popular, engagement. Also prominent, retention. So engagement and retention, everybody in this room thinks those are two things they'd like to solve through with AI. Other responses, communication, turnover, benefits, career pathing, cohesiveness, competency, anything not that you're not seeing on here that you would think is even more relevant here. Or we all agree that engagement is where you think you can get the most value out of AI. Anybody disagree with that? Okay, awesome. Just a quick exercise just to see where everybody's at in the room. So thank you for that. And then we'll get this guy over here. That's the one thing AI couldn't do for me is embed that in my slideshow system. See, it's not perfect. Okay, let's talk about the action plan. So I have put in front of you a worksheet, homework for yourself. But let's make it personal to you. This is yours to keep. I'm not taking this with me. So when you look at this worksheet, let's write down one analytics priority for your organization specifically. What problem would you like to solve? Which decisions would you improve? Who benefits? And then commit to one concrete step. This is the taking action part. What are you actually going to do to get what you just asked for? Whether it's a data audit, a stakeholder conversation, a tool evaluation, right? Figure out what you have in place for your HR tools. And then if you want to chat about it with your peers around, if you have anybody from the same organization, feel free to. But yeah, this is just going to be something you take away, sign it, seal it, read it in 30 days and see what you did, you know? So it helps you turn your ideas into actions. So define that one analytics, commit to that one concrete step, whether it be data audits, stakeholder meetings, and then create accountability. Share your plan with your peers, get them to agree to move forward with that. I'll give you a minute to complete that so you have it. And then you'll also notice that there is a QR code at the bottom of that sheet, and that is my contact information. So if you found value in this presentation and you want to reach out to me later, you want to talk more about this subject, I'm happy to do that. In that link, there's also going to be, in that QR code, there's going to be the ability to book time with me. There's going to be resources that you could just do some self-research on yourself. If you don't want to talk to anybody, totally fine as well. But in general, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and then that way we can stay close to each other. So that's yours to take home with you. Shove it in your pocket, put it in your bag, whatever it is. But don't forget about it, because it's super important to take that step of action so that you start small and scale this across your organization and really start making impacts. So let's recap everything. First, predictive power. That's what it is. AI turns HR data into insights, not just for the hindsight, but for the foresight. And second, ethics. Without fairness and privacy, you will run into some issues. So analytics can backfire. Keep that in mind when you are using these tools to check them and make sure it's giving you accurate information. And then third, adoption. Again, take this sheet home, win small, scale large. And finally, business impacts for people analytics transforms HR from back office functions into strategic partners. Get your seat at the table, because that's where you're going to make the most impact on your organization so that your organization can meet those business goals they have, like profitability or competitiveness or scalability. So those things all come from your talent outcomes, which is what you affect. Finding the right people, keeping the right people, and then engaging those folks to do the best possible work possible. Let's open it up for questions. When you've heard all these things, who's sat through something similar in the past? Something about people analytics, AI, okay. Anybody using? Yeah, Workday, okay. So Workday's got some AI analytics in it. Who else using some AI analytics in their workforce today? Anybody? Okay, let me ask this question. Does anybody feel like AI is going to replace them? No, good. We got past that. I'm glad. That's another talk that I like to do with folks. I did, Julie's in the back here with Disrupt HR. We do that talk often, and in November, probably next to next Disrupt HR, if you want to see me speak again, I haven't even applied, but I'm just go ahead and put that out there. I may be speaking at Disrupt HR talking about AI taking your job, which it's not going to. So I'm glad that's where we're at. Okay, so again, QR code, resources. I think they send these out, but if not, when you scan that, these resources are also there as well. Put your information in. If you want me to contact you, set up a time with me if you want to book some time with me. Otherwise, we do have a booth. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd be shocked if you hadn't though. It is very, very pink. Thank you, Kara, for that. So come by, see us, have a chat, and then looking forward to talking to everybody again soon. So thank you very much.